everybody. Welcome to this week's edition of Pickin' and Puttin' with Liberty Bill and Dr. Z. Here you go. There's a Pickin' and Puttin' merch cup right there, baby. And that's Ohio Stadium in the background because I'm a Tar Buck. And, of course, Bill's a Hawkeye. So we're all excited about the upcoming football season. So this is our edition of Coming to Your City College Game Day Edition 2023.
And they actually literally are coming to our city in 72 hours.
That's right. Yeah. College Game Day comes from Bank of America Stadium in Charlotte, North Carolina at 9 a.m. on Saturday, the 2nd of September, 2023. Well, I got a couple. Oh, go ahead, Bill.
DJ Mayo takes over at noon because, it's the Duke's Mayo kickoff classic. So we got DJ Mayo spinning the hits at noon there.
Okay. Well, I got a couple shout outs. One was, I had a couple from North Carolina. It was for Andy Griffith he had a famous thing, 70 years ago. And it was football. And if you've never heard that audio, go on YouTube and look it up, Bill. It's probably 1948 or something when he recorded it about going to football. The other one is, a shout out to the NCAA for your irrelevance in 2023. And on
that topic, I'd like to give a shout out to the executives at Fox and ESPN who have totally mutilated any tradition surrounding the sport of college football. So thank you, Fox and ESPN. Great job.
Yeah, and it'll only get better. They'll only screw it up.
Oh, yeah. Wait for Stanford and Cal flying into Florida's Tallahassee for a swim meet on Wednesday.
Yeah, well, it'll be exciting because the playoffs next year between Washington State and Oregon State are already set. So they know who they're.
In all seriousness, all those teams that got left behind, that's what I'm cheering for this year. Let's get some chaos.
Yeah, wouldn't that be cool if they whooped everybody's rear end?
Yeah.
And last of all, I got to a shout out to Victor Hovland in Norway. How cool was that? That kid was on fire, still is on fire, and he's the greatest personality. He still lives in Stillwater. And they said, well, what are you going to do with that 30 million you made this year? He says, oh, money goes a long way in Stillwater. He says,
ask Mike Gundy about that.
Yeah, he says, I'm good. So, well, I got a couple things and then we'll move on. I had a top 10 Dave's trivia kind of thing. And what it is you got to give me the top 10, not necessarily in order as they were ranked on social media, but top 10 college fight songs. Okay. And then I've got a trivia question for you and me, because later on I want to discuss Newt Rockne. And one of the things I came up with that he had a coaching tree that was unbelievable. And there was one coach on his coaching tree that was a head coach at Iowa, and one coach on his coaching tree that was a head coach at North Carolina. And you got no chance, and I don't either, because I'd never heard of any of them.
Forrest Abashevsky.
No, that's a good guess. That's a good one. Yeah. No, it's not. We'll get to that later. So the song I want to discuss real quick, and we'll move on, but it's Coming to Your City. So everybody knows that because we all get excited. As soon as that comes on, at 9 o'clock, everybody I tell everybody to shut up so I can watch. And that was written in 2005 by a duo called Big Kenny and John Rich, who went by the duo of Big and Rich.
Yeah, more known for Save a Horse, Ride a Cowboy. That was their first big hit.
Yeah, well, that's right. And this one got to number 21 on the Billboard Country Hits, and it became the theme song for College Game Day, and it first appeared on the show on September 12th, 2005. So
wow, right away. Okay, well, it's a staple now. I don't know. It's almost been 20 years. That's incredible.
That is incredible. Well, they changed up the intro a little bit. But it's kind of like when they tried to get rid of Monday Night Football's theme song. If you ever got rid of that song, you just
boom, boom, boom. No, you can't do it.
You can't do it. So where do you want to go? What do you want to talk about? You want to start with the college football stuff?
Yeah, I could start with a little Iowa talk. It's actually
okay.
It's a huge year for Iowa. They brought in Cade McNamara from Michigan, grad transfer. He brought his tight end buddy Eric All with him. They actually have a really good team on paper, and this is the last year of the divisions in the Big Ten. So all they have to do is win that weak ass West Division, and they'll get a chance at Ohio State or Michigan in the Big Ten title game. And if you manage to win that, you could find yourself in the playoff. So I'm talking myself into it. This is the year. They only have 4 road games, the hardest of which is at Penn State here in early September. It'll be a night game. It'll be a whiteout game. Certainly that will be hard. Their other tough road game is at Wisconsin. Well, Wisconsin hired Luke Fickell, who was the interim coach at Ohio State after the Tressel stuff. He's been at Cincinnati, been extremely successful. And he hired your boy, Phil Longo, to be the offensive coordinator.
Yeah,
So
from North
Wisconsin
Carolina.
is going to try to transition from I formation fullback power football to a spread. And I think long term it'll be successful, but really, will they be ready to go? They play Iowa October 14th. We'll see how they progress. That to me is the biggest game in Kirk Ferentz's tenure. If they beat Wisconsin, they should win the West Division and give himself a chance to ride off in the sunset as Big Ten champs. And that's what I'm hoping for this year. It really isn't that simple. Iowa has a top 10 defense in the country on paper. They brought in Cade McNamara, as I mentioned. They don't play Ohio State. They don't play Michigan. It's time to win a conference, Kirk.
Well, I think it'll be interesting because Longo is good. I mean, well, the other thing about Phil Longo, and let's just put this in a little perspective as a homer here. His last 2 quarterbacks that he had to coach were Sam Howell, who's now going to start for the Commanders, and everybody's still down. He's going to be a good pro, folks. I'm sorry. If you ever saw him throw a deep ball, man. And then right up behind him comes this kid, Drake May, who may be better than Sam Howell.
He is. He is. I mean, on paper, he's better. We'll see how it develops. Drake May could be the #1 pick in the draft. Sam Howell is legit, though. I mean, I got my fantasy draft here on Friday night. If I miss out on one of the top guys, I'm taking Sam Howell because he can run.
Yes,
as we saw him do at North Carolina. He'll be running.
Well, and he's bigger than you think. But my point to that was that's who Longo's had as his quarterback. So it's kind of like, coming in as a pro coach with nobody in the NFL. If you don't have a quarterback, I don't care who your coach is.
And that's a valid point. My counter to that would be look at a guy like Spencer Rattler, who was even more highly touted than either of those guys. So yes, Phil Longo inherited those talented guys, but he also coordinated offense that put up big amazing numbers. So it's hard to know, chicken or the egg, right? But that's a valid point.
Well, I went ahead. I was looking at these spreads, and the games this weekend, and you start off and you've got East Carolina, Michigan, and that's a 35.5 point spread. The ones that I find interesting is emotionally, it'll be a big deal for Virginia, Tennessee. You forget that, they lost those 3 kids where the shooting in the bus and stuff like that. And they haven't played in about a year. So I wonder how that'll go. But the 2 games that I pulled up, and it's this weekend, there were actually 3, but the spreads are interesting, are North Carolina, South Carolina, which that could be a hell of a game. And Spencer Rattler and Drake May. The other one is West Virginia, Penn State.
Yeah,
it's a 20-point game, but that's a backyard brawl kind of game, And the 2 most interesting ones, though, to me, are Florida State and LSU.
Oh, that's a playoff game.
Yeah, that's 2.5 points. And the other one is Clemson and Duke, which is 12.5 points. But it's at Duke, and Duke could surprise some people.
Yeah, Duke's quarterback Riley Leonard is on NFL watch lists, and Clemson is doing a very similar thing that Luke Fickell's doing up at Wisconsin. Dabo finally hired someone outside of the family, brought in Garrett Riley, who led TCU's offense as a coordinator last year. So Clemson should have a more modern offense. Very interested to see how that develops. But they've really slipped in recent years. Dabo's embracing NIL. He's not embracing the transfer portal. Florida State's back on the rise. Miami seems like they could be on the rise. So Clemson better be careful. If Dabo doesn't adapt, they could get left behind in the dust here in the new era.
I'll tell you the other one that having us seen down in this neck of the woods in the South, they got a they've got a pro style quarterback, and that's
Yeah, what's his
no
name? Hudson or Kate
well
Klubnik. Kate Klubnik, yeah.
well yeah at Clemson, but I was going to talk
Yep.
about Sam Hartman at Notre Dame.
Oh yeah.
My God, he could light it up at Wake Forest, and he lit it up against Navy. I don't know, but I think looking ahead, that'll be a great game, Notre Dame and Ohio State, especially with the head coach at Notre Dame being Ohio State grad, I think, or at least.
Notre Dame's going to have a lot to say in the national title picture. They play Ohio State, they play USC, and they play Clemson.
Yeah.
Notre Dame is going to be involved in the national title conversation just
Yeah.
based on who they play. So,
Does Southern Cal have to come to South Bend? Do you know?
yeah, I think so. That's
Oh, well, that'll make that a spectacular game. Yeah, I'm looking forward to LSU Clemson or LSU Florida State for multiple reasons, but I kind of feel like the coach is that coach has turned the corner there at Florida State. I mean,
oh, for sure.
they're ranked, but I
They got
think
Jordan Travis is a very, sleeper Heisman candidate. Yeah, Mike Norvell is the coach there. This is his fourth year, but you got to give these guys that started in 2020 a little bit of a break. To me, that's not really his fourth year because 2020 was crazy. So he's
well
getting
the
settled in there and he's got it cooking.
well the interesting one about the coaches is okay, so we got firsthand experience with Matt Rule, and yeah, he flipped Baylor, and yeah, he flipped Temple. But they were talking earlier, and I was listening. I thought it was an interesting conversation about Nebraska. And, I grew up with Nebraska and Oklahoma as powerhouses like OSU, Michigan, and that kind of stuff, Southern Cal, UCLA, whatever. And that's gone away. And the point he made is with the transfer portal and the recruiting, there's 7 states that border Nebraska or something. And out of the top 300 ranking players, they've had one. Yeah. And so it's very hard to recruit. It's kind of like when Ohio State and Michigan figured out they better go down and recruit Florida and Arizona and California because that was the change of where the speed was, and Texas for that matter. So I'll be interested to see how Nebraska does. And
Yeah, I would say on that though, Iowa is located in the same kind of area, has another Power Five school in the same small state.
But
Yeah,
they recruit Chicago, don't they? I
they
mean,
do. They do. I just think these Nebraska fans are delusional and love to create coaches. And I don't like to root against people. I'm rooting against Matt Rule. His little media tour since he left Charlotte, throwing everybody under the bus, is just unprofessional and petty. So I really hope he fails out there.
yeah. Well, I'm not convinced he won't, but a lot of these guys go to the pros and they're good college coach because they understand the semantics, the recruiting, and they're not a good pro coach because you're dealing with men, just different.
Yep.
I don't know. And
Yep.
the other one that's exciting to see is how Prime does in college.
Yeah, they get TCU right on the big
Yeah,
noon
I
Saturday
mean,
game.
I mean, there are a lot of people saying, well, they only won one game last year, but out of 100 or whatever number of players, they've got 86 new players on their squad this year.
Yeah, the Pac-12 in general I'm excited. It's so sad. This is a year where the Pac-12 has all these great teams and interesting stories like Colorado and Utah's back and Oregon State's good. And USC has the best player in the country.
Right.
And and I think back to obviously we both grew up in the Midwest. I lived out in Arizona briefly, but I don't have ties to the Pac-12. But I'm gonna miss it. It was just fun. It was just fun to have that tradition and those rivalries. And I'm not very excited to watch Iowa play Oregon at 10:30 p.m. Eastern on a Friday night in 2027.
Well, I really think that it's well, you've got near term, you got another shoe to fall because they'll get the votes. You'll end up with Stanford, Cal, and SMU in the ACC. Yeah, I know, but who knows why they're doing that? But long story short is I really feel like you're losing the history of college football because I really don't. Oh, the SEC flies their flag is high and mighty, but I think we look ahead 5 years in the Big Ten, the SAC, those names are irrelevant.
Yep, yeah, you're losing what makes college football special. It's becoming minor league NFL.
Yes.
And I don't think that's in the best long-term business interest. You're not going to have these rivalries. When I think about the Big Ten going to Iowa, growing up in Chicago, and then making friends outside of college that went to different colleges, you have those rivalries: Michigan State, Illinois, Indiana, and you get to play them every year, and you get to talk smack with your buddy and your friends and family. And now that's been ripped away. That's what made college football unique. Now it's just like, oh, the Eagles are playing the Dolphins this week. It's going to be similar to that. I really hope that what ends up happening is they break football off and go back to what it used to be. Go back to the original Big Ten before Penn State. Go back to the original Pac-10. Make a Big 8, Big 12, make that a 10. Just have a bunch of 10-team conferences. Then you play all 9 of the other teams in your conference. You play a couple of non-conference games, and then you have a big old playoff at the end. I hope that's what they end up doing. What they're doing right now, this is not sustainable. To have like a women's volleyball or swimming or tennis player, a non-revenue sport player, fly from Oregon to Rutgers in the middle of the week? How are they supposed to go to class?
Yeah, yes, I think that it's very sad. I mean, the other thing that gets left out in this with all the major colleges, what happens to the Central Michigans, the Miami of Ohio's, the Toledo's,
Yep.
the they're in
Boise
the Big Ten.
State. You remember how cool that was when Boise State crashed the BCS and beat Oklahoma with the Statue of Liberty play?
Oh yeah, it was great play. And then the guy proposed in the end zone.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, but see, in this neck of the woods, for example, at some point the money falls through, because I think with you're gonna eventually I don't know what, they don't even know what the model is for ESPN and Fox. They know they need live sports, but as people push towards streaming in that, and you can cherry pick what you want, they're not going to pay out all this money anymore. There's somebody.
On that topic, this just broke last night. Amazon got permission from the FCC for Thursday Night Football, the NFL game, to use like the actual streams as its ratings. And the chairman of CBS, Viacom or whatever the parent company's called, came out with a strongly worded statement like, we need to get this treatment too. So right now, Amazon's getting special treatment for tracking of the ratings for Thursday Night Football on streaming. And that is a war. That's a political war behind the scenes that's happening right now. And billions of dollars are being thrown around based on these fake ass ratings. It's insane. But that's the world we live in right now.
Well, no, that's the problem. The world we live in with money, you can go back to the golf and all that. And people got all over the golf. And I said, please don't throw that up at me. Just look at the world of soccer.
And now Koepka's in.
I mean, well, no, but I mean, well, no. I mean about the world of soccer. They take Messi and pay him $1 billion.
Yeah.
I mean, the guy, who's the guy who went to Saudi Arabia?
It's the same fund that's paying Lionel Messi to do that. It's the exact same fund.
Well, but who am I talking about? The other great star who went to Saudi Arabia. Messi's with Inter Miami, but anyways, I'm blanking. I don't remember that he was Argentinian or Spaniard, whatever. But my point to that was
Mbappe.
Yeah, but the money is you're right. And the other scary part with college football for me is, when they went through a few years ago how it was going to be the end of the world when they sold beer at the stadiums, and that's just a revenue stream now for the colleges. But the one that gets me about the money is the betting. And you just know that it's going to happen. It's harder to do with football, but it sure as heck's going to happen. And there's going to be some fixed games in basketball somewhere.
I mean, so to that, I would say, I think there always has been. I think now that people are betting online, there's a way to track it and snuff it out. what I would say on that, actually, Mike Florio, the Pro Football Talk guy that's on NBC,
Yeah.
brought this up with respect to the NFL. I think it should be a rule that should apply to every athlete at every level. While you're an athlete, you can't bet on anything, period. Like if you're an NFL player, you can't even bet on boxing. You can't bet on anything.
Right.
While you're an active NFL, like that just should be the rule. If you're a college football player, if you're an enrolled student athlete, you can't bet on anything. Like let's just keep it simple.
Right. That it's a simple rule. Well, the NFL, it's a simple rule. I mean, it's the people who were suspended. You're stupid if you're getting paid seven figures and you're betting $10 on whether Iowa beats, the Ohio State in the third quarter. It's just dumb, But
It's really silly.
yeah,
It's really silly. The NIL stuff, though, it's hilarious. I saw Kirk Ferentz, the Iowa coach, had a commercial on social media where there's a beer that's so the Iowa's NIL collective group is called Swarm, which is
yeah.
what Iowa does when they swarm the field together. So he's out there doing a commercial saying you should donate to Swarm and the Swarm beer will be available at Kinnick Stadium on Saturday. It's like, man, when I was in school, we had to drink 20 beers out in the parking lot.
Yeah.
And now
Well,
Kirk is up there pushing the official NIL beer.
well, to date myself, when I went to college, which I didn't go to the stadium behind me, those kind of stands at the end there at Ohio Stadium in Columbus, ours were metal stands, but you brought your cooler in and set it at your feet. And the most sneaky thing was if you brought a watermelon that people had filled up with booze, and then they handed around pieces, now. But yeah, it's pretty crazy. Well,
I am excited to see the Big Ten with the CBS. I will say the Big Ten, I like how they did it, where they have the Fox big noon game, the CBS 3:30 afternoon game,
yeah,
then the night game on NBC. I'm excited for that. It will be interesting to see though. Game day is going to turn into an SEC pregame show because Big Ten is not on ESPN anymore.
they're on
So
Fox.
I don't know how much game day I'm actually going to be watching. I might be watching more of that big noon kickoff show on
Well, and
Fox.
game day is in a transition because when Corso goes away, they can't do the head thing at the end with anybody else. And they have moved in Pat McAfee, who's wonderful and he's funny.
A lot of energy. He's high energy.
And he's high energy. So we'll see. I mean, I still love the show, but I agree with you. They're gonna be calling you, telling you what the Oberlin Kenyon game's gonna be this weekend. It's gonna be a change. Well, any NFL things before that season gets started?
Yeah, I think the AFC is going to be an absolute bloodbath, right? So whoever's healthy at the end will be in the Super Bowl, and then I think the NFC is wide open. My dark horse sleeper team is Atlanta. I
Yeah.
think Desmond Ritter, we don't know what he is. Arthur Smith now has been there a couple of years. They spent a bunch of money on defense. The NFC South, as we know here in Charlotte, is bad. Tom Brady's gone. The Saints, Sean Payton's not coming back. The Panthers are on the upswing, but it's a brand new rookie QB. So I think Atlanta could really surprise some people. And I think the Bears, people really need to temper their expectations. People betting on Justin Fields to win the MVP. Justin Fields might not even be the Bears starting quarterback next year. It's a big year for him. We'll find out what he's got.
I've got I've got a couple there as I think, as you mentioned, Mr. Payton, I think he's going to get his comeuppance in Denver because I think they're going to bomb big time. That's just my take.
I'm rooting for that, and I think it's very
Just,
possible that could happen. And Russell Wilson too. He might just be cooked.
Well, I think it's interesting the trade Dallas made because obviously, and there's a next year is a year that they can the other guy can go free agent, Dak. So
yeah, I was surprised Minnesota wasn't all over that. Kirk Cousins is going to be a free agent too.
yeah,
So that was a shrewd move by Dallas. And the other thing, if Dak goes, Mike McCarthy might get fired. They could bring in a more innovative coach around Trey Lance and really get something going there. That was an under the radar trade that definitely want to keep an eye on long term.
well, and here's my for sleepers. My sleeper is Jordan Love.
Yeah, I know. I'm
I, th-
scared about that. I had a nightmare. I woke up last night and
he's
I
had
had a nightmare that he's good.
he
Seriously, I had a nightmare that he's
he had some great stats last game.
good.
I think he's been
So,
there. He's well. He, you know, this is how they used to develop an NFL
no,
quarterback,
you're
is
right.
like
You're
Jordan
right.
Love, and they're making this big deal. Well, he's been around 4 years. Well, that's how it always was. Rather than throw a kid to the fire and then, yeah, I understand he learns on the job, and by the third year, like, look at it. How many years is the kid at LA Chargers? He's already in his fourth year, maybe.
Herbert,
He's
yeah.
Yeah, and he's got the potential to be a very great quarterback, as does Jacksonville, but he's in his third year. So the reality is their success still doesn't come to the fourth, fifth year.
It's a
So
great point.
maybe, Jordan Love knows
Josh
the
Allen,
system.
another one of those. Yeah.
He knows the system, knows the players, and I just think I think he's my sleeper. I think in uh, the worst thing about the NFL is what, and I get it, but I hate it, is what. Oh, I just went to
Yeah,
F.
your head disappeared there. Ah, he's lost in
Hey,
the
there he's
field,
back.
bro.
Well, my biggest thing let's see. There we go. I can come in. It's
Ah,
like this is my Halloween edition.
or I'm on some serious LSD or something. One of the two.
No, we're having a hard time here, folks. Well, no, I was going to say that God, where we were going with that. Totally lost my train of thought when my head disappeared here. Maybe that's why,
You, you were talking about a sleeper team.
Oh yeah, oh yeah. So I lost my mind there. So yeah, the sleeper team. I still think Green Bay. Um, Washington will be interesting. Oh, I know what I was going to say. The one that's driving me nuts is the fact that Arizona can get away with what they've done, and just basically unload everybody. They don't have a quarterback even, and what's his name's on the injured reserve, can't play for 5 or 6 games, so they're going to start Bill Edwards at quarterback.
Yeah, they're tanking out there.
Yeah, they're tanking in the idea to try to get the kid from possibly Southern Cal, but who knows. Um, well, crazy.
Yeah, I like how the Packers are doing it too. Sometimes you see with a young QB, like what the Panthers did. They brought in Adam Thielen, they brought in DJ Chark. Okay, I get it. You got a couple of veteran receivers to help the rookie get acclimated, but those guys aren't going to be around by the time Bryce Young is good. The Packers looked at it and like, yeah, let's just have a bunch of young guys that Jordan Love can build rapport with that will be around. A couple of them will be around in a couple of years if Jordan Love's good. And I think that actually makes a lot of sense. It's kind of going against the grain with what most teams do. And I'll be really interested to see how Bryce Young does this year.
Yeah, I
It's
think well, he's real smart, and
yeah,
what he'll do is he'll go down early and he'll throw quickly like Brady used to do and get rid of the ball. Um, I'm thinking that we probably ought to release this on Halloween because as the headless horseman here, if you ever watch this on YouTube, folks, you'll get it because I'm here live without a head. It's awesome. It's really
actually looks right now. It looks really cool. I don't know.
yeah, it looks very cool. It's very cool. Well, you got anything else you want to talk about, Billy, before we go
Yeah,
into?
I'll give a shout out to the Cubs for first time
Yeah,
in 4
well, they
years.
came. Yeah, they were fading there, dropping back 5, but they won last night, so maybe they can get it back.
They won again today. They're 3 games out of. They're in the wild card if the playoffs ended today. So
They're right on the edge for the wild card. Yeah,
and they're really. It's a great story of. The logical thing at the trade deadline for them to do would have been to trade their 3 best players who are all on expiring contracts.
yeah,
But Dansby Swanson, who the Cubs signed this past year out of Atlanta, is a leader. He's a Vanderbilt guy. He's just a leader in the locker room. He had been calling the general manager of the Cubs, Jed Hoyer, saying, "Give us a chance. Give us a chance. Like, you want us to be successful next year, or we can earn that success this year." And such a cool story of a front office that typically makes decisions based on data and long term and logic that got swayed by the emotion and the chemistry of the players. Then the players went out and delivered. They won 8 of 9 right after the Cubs stood pat at the trade deadline. Cubs actually added at the trade deadline. To see those guys catch fire a little bit and the atmosphere in that ballpark, they're building something special. I really feel they're not going to win the World Series this year, Of course, I say that now, they probably will, but they're just building something special for the next 3 to 5 years, and it's fun to see it come together. It's good vibes on the north side.
Yeah, well, that's good. And by the way, I just drank my potion, so I'm visible again. Very nice. So, oh, by the way, I didn't do a shout out, which I should have done to my alma mater at the University of North Carolina. So that was a scary thing for kids on campus. It sounded like it was just a single man after one man for who knows what reason, but prayers with all those people. And I know the kids are feeling a little rattled this week, but hopefully it'll get better each week. Okay, so I got a quote for you, and then we'll go back. I got to give you my trivia. My quote is from Lou Holtz. I picked a Notre Dame guy. You got to pick him. So
what's Lou up to these days?
I don't know what. I've seen him on some TV stuff though. But he said, well, think about it. Lou's got to be well up in his 80s.
He's 86, yeah.
Yeah, I was going to say he's up there with Lee Corso. But his quote was, when all is said and done, more is said than done.
That's great.
Yeah. Okay. So can you name the Iowa coach who was on the staff of no, I know you can't. So the guy
not a bad guess though.
I'm going to give it to you. He was on Newt Rockne's staff, and he was the head coach at Iowa from 39 to 49. His name was Eddie Anderson.
Yeah, I would never have gotten that. Bump Elliott, I just looked up the list of Iowa coaches. I guess I would have
gotten he came from Michigan.
Yeah, I guess he was an athletic director. So
he was a coach too. There were two brothers. They were from Michigan, I think. I'm a lot older than you, so. And the other one was North Carolina's head coach from 26 to 33 was a guy named Chuck Collins, who was on Newt Rockne's staff, who I'd never heard of either. Okay, so to end it up here with a trivia question, can you give me? I'll give you the Dave's top 10. Can you give me the top 10 college fight songs as listed on Wikipedia? That's my.
Yeah, I think right out of this, Wikipedia. That's always credible source there. Ohio State, Michigan, Notre Dame would be the three that I would have coming out of the chute there.
It's interesting. Hail to the Victors is number 1. On Wisconsin is number 5.
Oh, okay.
Victory March of Notre Dame is number 4. Ohio State is not listed. Hard to believe.
That is hard to believe.
Yeah.
They're clearly not factoring the performative art of the gentleman with the tuba dotting the I.
Now, I'll give you a hint.
Dave.
Peyton.
Oh, Tennessee. Rocky Top?
Yeah, Rocky Top's number 3. Here's another one. Neighbor of Nebraska.
Iowa?
Boomer Sooner.
Oh, yeah.
That was number 2.
I was going to say Iowa's fight song isn't that great. It's their secondary song, In Heaven There Is No Beer. That's the good stuff.
Well, now these are the rest of them. Number 6 is
Eyes of Texas. Is that one of them?
No, it's not on there. Fight On by USC.
Oh, that's a class. That's a really good instrumental orchestra song.
Then I believe this is Auburn, although it could be Clemson. It's the Tiger Rag. I think that's Auburn, is it not?
I couldn't tell you that one.
Oh, yeah. Okay. Service Academy. Anchors Aweigh, Navy.
Oh, yeah. That's a good one.
And the last two, you got no chance. Number 10 was Bow Down to Washington. I've heard Bear Down, Arizona, but Bow Down to Washington.
Bear Down, Chicago Bears.
And number 9 is the Florida State University fight song, which I can't. I think if I heard it, I'd know it, but I can't.
Yeah, it's kind of like the Tomahawk Chop, but not really.
Okay. Well,
yeah. Florida State, big year for them. By the way, Mac Brown, big year for him. He's 72. He's got the top 5 NFL draft quarterback. He kept his boy Gene Chizik around. They got enough talent. They need to have a really good season.
No, this is I think this is his watershed year, and then he'll walk away, especially if they would win 10, 11 games or whatever. They
All
got
right, let's predict it now. Carolina and Iowa to the playoff. Mac Brown and Kirk Ferentz retire into the sunset.
well,
How
they got to be. Well, you're right. He has to have double-digit wins. I heard a guy talk on the ACC network who is a Clemson graduate, but he's a talking head now.
Oh, that Eric McLean guy, he's good.
Yeah,
Former
he was
offensive
well, he
lineman.
was very
Yeah.
good. And the point he made was that North Carolina now has really loaded up. Their defense last year was awful, and I go to all the games.
Yep.
So they loaded up at defensive backs. They got transfers and recruited well. And this guy said their whole line is 5 stars.
It is. It is.
The defensive line is 5 stars, and
It needs to be dominant. They're like too deep. Like they go. There's 8 guys. They need to dominate. Saturday night.
He needs to. Gene Chizik needs to earn his money this year.
Yep.
So he tried to walk away, and he wouldn't let him.
Is that right?
Well, no, I think Mac Brown. That was the sales pitch, like you said. You know, why not hang around one more year? We got all the studs you can get now. See what you can do. We got a quarterback, and we got the biggest thing they have is they're trying to get that kid who's an NFL caliber transfer wide receiver. And I don't know what the deal on that was, but
yeah, that's unfortunate. But I'll be there Saturday night. It's the biggest game of the weekend. Sorry, Florida State, LSU.
Yeah, so we'll see. Well, Billy, it was fun. I guess that's it for this week of Picking and Putting. If you want to see the Headless Horseman, tune in about midway on YouTube and watch it because I'm there. I don't know.
You're not on drugs, people. He really disappeared.
I really disappeared. I congratulate AT&T on their excellent internet support for this event.
Simply the best.
Simply the best. That was another episode of Picking and Putting. Look forward to talking and seeing to you. Go Hawks, go Heels, go everybody else whose team you're rooting for. We wish Tomahawk Chop, anybody else, LSU, Road Tigers, whatever. Have a good week. Have a good weekend, and we'll look forward to seeing you next time.
Go football.
Go football. Yeah. See you later, Billy.
Bye.
Bye.